Hello and welcome back to The Brompton Guy. Today's episode is going to be a little bit different because I'm going to really rely on you, the community, to help me design the ultimate bike packing bag for my Brompton adventures. As you've seen recently, I did my first ever bike packing adventure, and while the adventure itself was amazing, my setup was not refined and I ended up seeing myself taking a rucksack over the couple of days I did it. At the end of that adventure, I knew one thing, and that was I wanted to spend time to build the ultimate bike packing Brompton rear rack bag. So let's jump right into it and cue the intro.
He's the Brompton Guy!
Brompton bike packing. I think anyone watching this can agree it's just unbelievable what we can do on Bromptons and the amount of kit we can take and haul with the Brompton itself. As you know, as I said in the intro, I did my first bike packing venture along Scotland's west coast, and it was just unbelievable. It was a last minute decision, so that is why I ended up taking the rucksack and the Borough roller bag with me also. As you may also know from the channel, I'm actually quite a big fan of the Borough rolling rack bag, but I have highlighted some faults that it has. Now, on the bike packing trip I did, it actually was invaluable because I could keep it all at the rear for myself, and it was the only bag I had. Without that bag at the time, it would not have been possible. And I know a lot of people watching this will say, utilise the Brompton's best feature, that being the front carrying block for the bag itself. Now, as I've said also, personally, I'm not a fan of the look of the bag on the front of the bike, so it's not something I've naturally gravitated to. And because for some of the upcoming bike packs I want to do, my plan is to actually try and get a Brompton electric to make it more of a leisure and enjoyable ride, and I can relax that little bit more on the hills. Yes, I'll have to do a little bit of planning between where can I charge the battery, but my whole concept here is to keep the front block free should I choose to take the Brompton electric. So with that, I want to utilise the most real estate on the rear rack of the bike. What I want to do is highlight the Borough roller rack bag again, just so I can talk over some of its features and what I found about it. We have the trusted bag here, tried and tested by me, and one of the things that I did like about this was the security of the back straps here, so that really does help lock it in. And if I remember rightly in my review, I did actually complain that this wasn't needed, but I feel the more and more I'm using it, it just, yes, it takes a little bit more effort, and I could maybe have cut it and put Velcro, but this really does help secure it in, and the overall design is actually really good. I love the fact that I can get my rear light on here. And I do like the fact that the zip is covered up and extended down with material. When I did the trip, obviously I couldn't get the tent inside here, but I did manage to get the tent through the top, secured on the loops here, and happy days. In the rucksack, I had to take my sleeping bag and sleeping mat. I like the dual zips to get in the bag itself, but for the Brompton, it's just a little bit small to actually bike pack with, but it does have the valuable size here where your legs can still actually clear with your pedals. So it was quite vital when designing this bag that I did it very similar to this design, but I had to make some improvements. And I want to share with you the concept that I've came up with. Now, it is made of cardboard, and that's because when I've been working with the people designing it, I said the only way I can be sure on size and spec is to actually make the model up. So I've made it as close to it as I can, and I've fitted it in the Brompton to see how it fits. What I'll do first is I'll show you the prototype, and then we'll fit it in the Brompton to see if there's anything that I'm missing or anything your input can add to the bag itself. So I am calling this the Borough roller rack bag jumbo, pretty much. And as you can see here, it takes a similar design. So obviously I've kept the loop that we talked about here so that I can secure it at the bottom. I've then went with 3 Velcro straps to secure it to the seat post itself. I've kept a similar zip design with the overlap here, just so if it rains, the water can actually fall off it. And yes, it is flat, but I've decided to go with a mesh pouch, which would be a finer mesh, but purely for those moments where maybe I've got a bit of rubbish, a bottle, or something that I want to just throw in. So that way I don't need to worry about the size in there. I can pack this out, and it's far enough away from my foot, it shouldn't get in the way. This is something that I felt I really missed on that long adventure. Fair enough, I had my recycling pockets, but it's nice to think even if I had to overstuff, I've kind of got a bit of leeway on this side here. We then have the tickable, that's not really a word. We then have the buckle, which will go on there. Not decide if I want a buckle or what I've got on my watch, which you probably can't see from there. It's known as an alpine loop, so it's got a little hook and hooks in as I want there. Mainly because I think when I spec this, it's quite hard to give the exact measurements of asking them where to stitch the buckle in. The ones in the Borough bag are perfectly sized, and I think I just find it hard to give those exact dimensions. On the rear, you'll see I've taken a similar idea to what they did there. I have my light on here, and these tapes represent where stitching may go, so it limits it, but it also gives me 2 extra loops that I can clip stuff on here. And on my bag there, I keep a little air tag just on my bag, so that gives me 2 extra utility loops just to clip little bits and bobs on. The bag itself also has retained its circular design, but also made bigger. What you can maybe see from this angle, what I can actually do is let me take the lid off for just now. What you can see from this angle here is that I've rounded it, but a bigger round than what's on there, and it also gets wider as it comes out. So obviously I need to keep the front as narrow as possible, but I can widen the back because my heel isn't going to strike it on the pedal stroke. But what this measurement allows here, in this perfect circle shape here, is for my sleeping bag and my roll mat and my tent to all fit inside this bag relatively comfortably. Now, I'm going on what I took the very first time I went bike packing, and with all that in, it fits absolutely beautifully with just enough space to throw some extra stuff on top. Now, on these rides I will also have my hydration pack, which is a little bit of storage, and my cycling pockets. So the main thing on here is to get all my sleeping goods inside, which it does. Now obviously the lid won't come off, but just when designing it, it was significantly easier to take a removable lid than on there. And then on this side, I've opted not to have the mesh pocket, and I can't decide if I should put the mesh pocket in. So if you think I should do dual mesh pockets, please let me know, but I'm worried that I then somehow keep making it bigger and bigger. But I guess it's better to make a bag that has the best utility than just one side and regret it later on. But if you can think of something else that might be beneficial to put on a mesh pocket one side, something else, then please let me know. The other consideration I have when doing this is obviously this is much bigger than the Borough bag, and my worry is when it's actually on and weighted, is it going to rock at the top because its only securing point at the top is there? And should I potentially try and get a strap to go all the way around the seat post, and I can adjust it tight just so I can control that rock? It's really hard to know if that's necessary. My worry about putting that is it's going to compromise how big the mesh pocket could be just for the utility of the strap. I was thinking in a worst case scenario, I could also just put my own loop of rope around it if it's really bad and send it back to have the strap added. But again, it'd be great to know if you feel that its centre might try and wobble too much. But bear in mind, the majority of the weight is probably going to feel down at the bottom rather than up at the top. And that's pretty much what I've came up with here. What I want to do now is put it on the rear rack, show you how it looks, and then that way when you're looking at it, you might see something that I've missed. So let's go into the bike. Right, so here it is in action here. So as you can see, this would be the side with the mesh on it here, which is my favourite side to put down my left hand. We have the 3 Velcro straps, which I think look pretty well placed on it to keep it secure on that side there. We have the standard loop that we have on the Borough roller rack bag also. And we would have what would lock it on here. As I say, I quite like the idea of the wee alpine loop thing to go in, and then I can pull it as tight. So if all that had little loop selections there. Obviously with the bigger wheels, it sits on the wheels and doesn't actually hang over crazy far. Obviously it does hang over the end of the rack, but in order to get the space to store it all, that's what I pretty much have to do there. If I come round on that side, I can show you where the rack ends. So the actual rack ends here. So you can see it comes quite a bit extra on there from the rack, but it does get a little bit of support from the wheels itself. But I can't decide if I'd keep these on if I was doing long distance, but maybe I would. Standard light on the back and all that there. Again, the only thing I can't decide is I would need a strap to hold that in at the front also on that side. And then the plan would be, this is the open side there, so I can open it up with zips from there, which is all good. And to leave just enough height underneath the seat post so you can see it's pretty much measured up to just where it hollows into the finner part, because I do still need to get a camera so I can get some of those nice shots from the rear of it itself there. The other thing I've not put on it yet is I do believe I'll probably want a carry handle, so I'll probably do 3 carry handles at the top there, just to give me a variety of what I want to do. Might just do the one, but I'll see what looks more aesthetically pleasing. But that's how it would look on the bike, obviously utilising the height as much as I can on it there to give me everything from the saddle. And I can't think of missing anything, but again, that's what I'm relying on you to give me that little bit of insight. So let's cut back to the studio for final thoughts. And there you have it. That is my custom prototype of what I would consider to be one of the best rear rack bags for bike packing on a Brompton. Now, I do understand I've only been bike packing once, and there's a massive great community out there that has done it multiple times and has learned from lots of little mistakes over those times. So if you're looking at this bag and it's blatantly obvious that I'm missing something, please add it to the comments before this bike goes into its final production in a week's time there, so I can actually try and produce a brilliant bag for everyone to share at the end of this. Obviously, once I get the bag, it will be getting road tested and actually taken out to the road to check if I manage to create a really good bag for it, but I'm hoping together we can create the ultimate Brompton bike packing bag there. As always here in the Brompton Guy, it's always great to have your input, and it means so much to me that the community is such a valuable input to this channel. If you do have any ideas for content you want to see, please feel free to let me know in the comment section also. And that is all I have for you tonight, so enjoy your day and we'll see you on the next one.
He's there!